The galaxy thought humans were fragile diplomats. They looked at them as a young species, still new to the stars, still learning how to live among greater civilizations. To most alien eyes, humans were seen as harmless, polite, even a little naive. They always carried warm smiles, they always offered handshakes, they always spoke words of peace. But today, in the great council hall of the stars, that illusion was about to break. The council hall was vast, a cathedral of stone and steel, where the most powerful leaders of the galaxy gathered. Thousands of species had seats, from towering reptilian warlords to small insectoid diplomats, their wings humming softly in the stale air. Holograms of distant representatives shimmered along the walls. The sound of whispers and clicks filled the chamber like restless insects in the dark. And then, the humans entered. They walked in calmly, in neat formation, their boots echoing against the polished floor. The lead ambassador, a tall man with pale eyes and a carefully measured smile, stepped forward as if this moment was nothing unusual. Behind him, aides carried digital tablets, translators, and sealed briefcases. Their movements were smooth, controlled, without panic or hesitation. To the alien council, it looked like the entrance of simple diplomats, calm and harmless. But some noticed details that others ignored. The ambassador's eyes lingered too long as he scanned the room. He was not looking at the architecture or the glowing banners of alien empires. He was looking at the people themselves. His gaze slid over them one by one, sharp and calculating, as if measuring the strengths and weaknesses of each species. Like a predator choosing which animal in the herd to strike first. Some leaders shifted in their seats, unsure why the human smile suddenly felt like a mask. The council began. Voices rose, translators hummed, arguments unfolded about border disputes, trade rights, and military expansions. Humans waited patiently, never interrupting, their ambassador always keeping that same polite smile. But while others spoke, the humans did not waste time. They observed. Their eyes tracked every movement, every nervous twitch, every display of arrogance from alien rulers who thought themselves untouchable. And as the session dragged on, one thing became clear: the humans were not distracted. They were hunting. At the far end of the chamber, the Kreth warlord, a massive reptilian creature covered in armored scales, leaned close to his advisor. "They are small," he hissed. "Soft skins. No claws. No fangs. They smile too much. What danger is in them?" His advisor did not answer. He too had felt the strange weight of the human's gaze. It was not the gaze of prey. It was the gaze of something dangerous, hidden behind courtesy. The ambassador rose when it was his turn to speak. His voice was calm, smooth, and unhurried. He spoke of cooperation, of trade, of peace. He told the galaxy that humanity wanted nothing more than to live in harmony among the stars. He praised the council, praised the achievements of the ancient civilizations, praised their wisdom. The words were flawless, the tone perfectly respectful. Aliens nodded, reassured. To most ears, it sounded like sincerity. But beneath the words was something else, something only the most sensitive could feel, a quiet confidence, almost a threat hidden under layers of silk. When he paused, his eyes once again moved across the hall. He did not smile now. He simply looked. His gaze locked with a small insectoid diplomat. The creature's wings froze, its tiny legs trembling. The human's eyes shifted again, landing on a towering avian leader, whose feathers ruffled nervously though the temperature in the hall had not changed. One by one, his eyes touched them, and each felt something ancient stir within them, something buried deep in their instincts, fear of being hunted. Still, the ambassador ended his speech with another smile, polite and warm, as if nothing had happened. The council applauded, wings clapped, claws clicked against stone, tails drummed in approval. Yet the unease did not vanish. It lingered in the shadows, unspoken, but growing stronger. As the session ended, aliens gathered in small groups, whispering in low voices. Some said the humans were weak but clever. Others said they were strange, too strange. And a few, the older ones who had survived wars no one dared to speak about, whispered something darker, that humans reminded them of predators their species had long ago killed or been killed by. A reminder of a past most civilizations had erased but never truly forgotten. The human ambassador walked through the hall with the same calm smile. His aides followed close behind, but one of them, a woman with sharp features and eyes like cold steel, gave a small gesture to her superior. A subtle flick of the hand, almost invisible. To most, it looked meaningless. But to those who noticed, it was not meaningless at all. It was the kind of signal hunters give one another when prey has been marked. Several alien leaders saw it. Their hearts beat faster, their instincts screamed warnings, but their minds refused to believe. They told themselves it was nothing. Just a human habit. Just a meaningless twitch. But deep inside, where instinct is older than reason, they knew. They were being watched. Not as equals, not as friends, not even as rivals. They were being watched as prey. The humans exited the chamber, leaving behind silence heavier than war. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's leaders felt uncertainty in their own hall. They had faced wars, rebellions, plagues, and starfaring beasts. But this was different. Wars were loud, clear, and obvious. But this was quiet. Silent. Hidden behind a smile. And that was far more dangerous. The Kreth warlord leaned forward, his scales shivering. "They smile too much," he whispered again, but this time his voice was not mocking. It was afraid. The insectoid diplomat trembled in its seat, trying to steady its wings. "Did you feel it?" it asked its neighbor. "When he looked at me, it was like I was already dead." The neighbor said nothing. But his feathers would not stop shaking. And somewhere far from the council chamber, in the cold void of space, human fleets waited. Not in attack formation. Not with weapons drawn. They waited silently, hidden in shadows, engines muted, patient as hunters in tall grass. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for prey to forget it was being hunted. The galaxy had believed humans were fragile diplomats. They thought humans smiled because they were weak. They thought the young species was desperate for peace. But today, in the great council hall, they began to feel the truth. The smile was not weakness. It was not peace. It was camouflage. Behind the smile, behind the calm words and polite bows, was something older, darker, more dangerous. The truth was simple. The humans were not diplomats. They were predators pretending to be diplomats. And the galaxy had just realized it. The council adjourned, but the unease did not fade. It spread instead, like a shadow moving through the corridors of power, whispered in secret rooms, carried by trembling voices. And as the lights dimmed in the chamber and the banners faded, one thought echoed silently in the minds of every leader who had seen the humans smile that day. The prey had welcomed the predator into its den. The council chamber was quiet after the humans left, but the silence was not peace. It was heavy, filled with thoughts no one dared to say out loud. Aliens shuffled in their seats, wings flicking, tails curling, claws scraping softly against stone. Something had changed, and though no one wanted to admit it, they all felt it. The human smile was still there in their memories, and it would not leave. That night, whispers began spreading across the stations and the city worlds that surrounded the council. The smaller races were the first to talk. Traders, envoys, and minor diplomats whispered over drinks in shadowed halls. Stories emerged, strange tales from the edge of human space. Entire predator species near human colonies had gone silent. Creatures that once terrorized entire systems had disappeared when humanity settled close. The humans denied involvement, of course, and always with that same calm smile. They said the predators had fled. They said the predators had starved. They said the predators had destroyed themselves. But the whispers carried a darker version. The predators had not vanished. They had been hunted. The insectoid diplomat who had frozen under the human gaze could not sleep. Its wings trembled through the long night as it remembered those pale eyes staring into its soul. It replayed the human's expression over and over. That was not diplomacy. That was not kindness. That was hunger disguised as calm. And the more it thought, the more it feared. Others had stories too. A merchant captain told of a human colony ship landing on a savage jungle world. The local predators, towering beasts with claws longer than a soldier's arm, vanished within months. The humans built towns, farms, and schools where no one else had ever survived. They had not begged for protection. They had not asked for allies. They had survived by themselves. Some captains swore they had seen human hunting parties walking calmly into the jungle with only simple weapons, returning later with trophies no one else would dare to touch. By dawn, the rumors had grown. In the crowded markets of the station worlds, voices whispered that humans smiled only to hide their true nature. That their smiles were not peace but teeth in disguise. Back in the council chambers, meetings were called. A group of alien leaders gathered in secret, away from the ears of the younger species. They spoke quietly, their words tight with an ease. They pretend to be weak, one said, feathers twitching nervously. They pretend to be kind, hissed another, scales scraping against the stone table. They pretend, muttered a third, but only predators pretend so well. Still, others laughed. They said the humans were small. They said humans were only clever storytellers who had learned to survive by lies. But the oldest in the room, the ones who remembered the great wars of the past, did not laugh. They sat in silence, remembering ancient predators that once ruled their own worlds, predators who smiled before they killed. Meanwhile, far from the council, a secret reached the claws of one nervous delegate. A data crystal was slipped into his hands by a trembling messenger who refused to stay. Alone in his quarters, the delegate activated the crystal. Holographic images filled the air. He saw humans in the dark of alien jungles, moving with silent precision. He saw them hunt with patience, their weapons secondary to their instincts. He saw entire predator beasts dragged back to camp. And then he saw something worse. He saw a human ambassador, smiling politely as he shook hands with an alien governor. Behind the governor's city, in the wild hills, no predators remained. Not one. The delegate's hands shook. He turned off the crystal and locked it away, but the images would not leave his mind. He told no one, not even his own kind, for fear that the humans might know he had seen. Yet his eyes betrayed him the next day when he stood across from a human in the council's grand hall. He flinched when the human smiled. He could not help himself. The human's smile looked too much like teeth. As more rumors spread, some species began to question. Could it be true? Could the friendly young race that bowed and shook hands be the very same hunters that the galaxy had long forgotten? Could they be predators hiding in plain sight? The human ambassador moved through the chambers with no sign of concern. His polite voice never trembled, his words never stumbled. To many, he still looked harmless. But for those who had begun to suspect, his calmness was more terrifying than anger. Predators did not need to shout. Predators only needed to wait. And then, as the day session ended, something small but chilling happened. A council guard, a reptilian soldier, swore he saw one of the human aides give another subtle hand signal, just a flick of the fingers, so fast it could have been meaningless. But the soldier had hunted before, long ago on his own world. He recognized the sign. It was the signal hunters gave when prey was marked. The soldier told no one. He knew no one would believe him. But as he stood at his post and watched the humans walk away, his throat felt dry, and his scales shivered with the old fear of prey animals staring into the tall grass, knowing something waited inside. The galaxy had always seen humans as fragile diplomats. But now the whispers grew louder, and shadows spread across the council halls. Something was wrong with the smiles. Something was hidden behind the handshakes. And for the first time, the galaxy began to wonder if they were not living beside neighbors, but beside hunters in disguise. And somewhere, deep in the black, human ships moved quietly between the stars. They did not fire. They did not conquer. They waited. Patient, calm, and smiling. Just like predators always do. The days after the council grew heavier with tension. Official reports spoke of peace and cooperation, but the private halls were filled with unease. The whispers had grown into questions, and the questions carried the weight of fear. Aliens who had once laughed at the humans' weakness now looked over their shoulders when the ambassadors walked past. The smiles that once seemed harmless now lingered too long, like a shadow that stretched across every corner of the chamber. It began with one envoy, bold enough to step forward. He was from a mid-tier empire, powerful enough to speak but not strong enough to stand alone. He confronted the human ambassador during an informal gathering, where leaders usually traded polite words and soft agreements. His mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke, but he forced his voice to remain steady. "There are rumors," he said. "Rumors of disappearances near your colonies. Whole species, gone. Do you deny this?" The human ambassador tilted his head slowly. His pale eyes fixed on the envoy, and his smile curved into something gentle, almost amused. "Rumors," he said softly, "are dangerous things. They spread like fire. But fire often burns the one who carries it." The envoy's mandibles twitched. "Then what is the truth?" The human did not raise his voice. He did not show anger. He only leaned forward, his eyes locking with the envoy's as though there were no one else in the room. "The truth," he said, "is that humanity does not seek conflict. We defend ourselves when threatened, nothing more. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. If predators vanish, perhaps they chose to leave. Perhaps they starved. Perhaps," he added with that same calm smile, "they learned what happens when they mistake us for prey." The room grew quiet. Even those who had not been part of the conversation now leaned closer. The envoy wanted to argue, but the words would not form. The human's gaze held him still, and in that gaze, he felt the weight of something ancient, something far older than diplomacy. It was the look of a hunter who had already chosen where to strike. When the human finally leaned back and sipped his drink, the envoy felt as though he had been released from invisible claws. He excused himself quickly and left, his legs trembling with each step. He would never again confront a human directly. Others noticed the exchange. They saw the envoy's fear, the calmness of the human, and the silence that followed. And in that silence, the whispers grew louder. In the days that followed, the council began to dig deeper. Records were pulled from archives, histories reviewed, patterns searched. They looked into humanity's past, their rise from a small world filled with predators. They found wars, endless wars, where humans had not only survived but had thrived in conflict. They found stories of beasts on Earth, massive predators that had once ruled the land, the seas, the skies. And yet all of them were gone. Not because they fled, not because they starved. They were gone because humans had hunted them, one by one, until only humans remained. For some in the council, the truth was clear. Humanity had never stopped being predators. They had only learned to hide it better than any other. One counselor, old and weary, whispered to his peers, "We should have known." The smile was never kindness. It was camouflage. The most dangerous predators are the ones who hide their teeth until it is too late. Meanwhile, far above the council world, ships moved in the dark. Not in attack formation, not with weapons firing, but with a patience that unsettled those who tracked them. Human fleets never gathered without reason, yet they gave no explanation. They drifted near disputed systems, silent, waiting, watching. Then came the first leaked diary. No one knew who released it. Some said it came from a deserter. Others said it was planted as a warning. But the words spread fast across the council networks. A soldier's voice, recorded in simple lines. "We smile so they never see the teeth. We speak soft so they never hear the growl. We shake hands so they never feel the claws. Let them think we are weak. It is better that way. Prey always lowers its guard when it believes the predator is harmless." The words were simple, almost casual. But they struck the council like thunder. Many refused to believe it. Many said it was a forgery, a trick, a lie. But those who had looked into the ambassador's eyes, those who had felt their instincts scream when the human smiled, knew the truth. The illusions began to crack. Those who had once trusted humanity's soft words now hesitated. Those who had once welcomed human diplomats with open arms now looked at them with quiet fear. And every time the human smiled, the council saw not peace, but teeth hiding in the dark. But still, the humans said nothing. They never defended themselves loudly. They never shouted. They only smiled, and in that smile, the galaxy felt the shadow of something it could not yet name but would soon understand. And far away, in the cold silence between stars, the human fleets drifted closer. Not striking yet. Not speaking yet. Waiting. Always waiting. Part 1. The First Signs. Hook. In deep space, explorers detect a strange signal from a hostile planet. Suspense. No one dares to land there. But one human ship sets course toward it. Build curiosity. Why are humans not afraid when others fear the planet? The council archives had always been places of pride. Within them were the records of countless civilizations, their victories, their discoveries, their wisdom preserved for the galaxy to admire. But now the archives felt less like a monument and more like a tomb. Delegates and historians gathered in dimly lit chambers, their voices hushed as they searched for the truth of humanity's past. What they uncovered shook even the oldest of them. They saw Earth's history in unbroken lines of blood and survival. They saw wars that never ended, each more brutal than the last, until nations had risen and fallen like waves crashing against rocks. They read of predators that once ruled Earth, the great fanged cats, the monstrous reptiles, the giant hunters of the seas, and how none of them had survived humanity. No other intelligent species in the galaxy had such a record. Most civilizations had been prey first, learning to fear before they learned to fight. Humanity had never been prey. Humanity had always been the one doing the hunting. One archivist trembled as she projected the old records before the council. Her voice cracked when she spoke. Every dominant predator on Earth, gone. They vanished not by chance, not by plague, not by migration. They vanished because of humans. If a beast threatened them, they killed it. If food was scarce, they killed more. They turned predators into tools, into trophies, into legends. Until only they remained. The chamber grew still. The insectoid delegate who had once frozen under the ambassador's gaze whispered to himself, they were never weak. They only wore the mask of weakness. His wings quivered as if something unseen brushed against them. The ambassador, sitting quietly in the back of the chamber, did not object. He did not deny the history. Instead, he smiled again, as though the truth was not dangerous but amusing. That smile carried no warmth now. It was the smile of someone who knew the truth could not be changed. Later that evening, away from the public halls, smaller groups of leaders gathered in private. Some argued that humanity was dangerous and should be contained before it was too late. Others insisted that the humans had shown no open aggression, that history alone could not condemn them. But the older ones, the survivors of forgotten wars, shook their heads. "You don't see it," one of them muttered. "They are patient. They wait. And when they strike, you will not have time to understand before it ends." That night, a data fragment slipped through the secure channels. It was a human soldier's diary, short and unadorned. The words were simple, almost careless. "We smile so they never see the teeth. It keeps them calm. It keeps them close. One day, when the mask falls, they will understand what it means to be prey." The words spread quickly, shared in hushed tones, denied by human diplomats but never disproven. Some said it was a forgery. Some believed it was real. But no one could forget it. Every time a human diplomat bowed or shook hands, the words returned like a shadow, "We smile so they never see the teeth." From then on, every council meeting carried a different weight. The humans spoke softly, made promises, offered treaties, but the room no longer heard peace. They heard camouflage. Their instincts betrayed them. The smile on the human's lips no longer felt harmless. It felt like the slow curl of a predator's mouth before the bite. Far beyond the council's reach, in the dark edges of the galaxy, fleets continued to vanish without explanation. Some empires lost patrols near human borders. Outposts reported strange movements before going silent. Each disappearance was brushed aside, explained away, but the timing was too precise to ignore. And always, the humans denied involvement, their calm faces unchanging. One alien scholar finally spoke the words the others feared to admit. "Diplomacy is their camouflage. History proves it. The mask is thin. Behind it, they are not neighbors. They are hunters. And we are the herd." The words were not recorded in any official log, but they passed from ear to ear, from shadow to shadow, until the galaxy could not silence them. Humanity was no longer seen as fragile. No longer harmless. They were predators pretending to be diplomats, and the mask was beginning to slip. And in the cold dark between the stars, the human fleets waited in silence. They had time. Predators always had time. The council chamber was alive with noise. Voices clashed, translators buzzed, and banners flickered above the seats of 1,000 species. But beneath the sound, there was fear. The rumors had grown too large to ignore, the whispers too sharp to dismiss. Some leaders rose to denounce humanity, declaring them liars and predators wearing the mask of peace. Others defended them, insisting that humanity had brought nothing but trade, technology, and cooperation since their arrival among the stars. And at the center of it all, the humans sat quietly, their faces calm, their smiles unchanged. An avian delegate stood, feathers bristling as he pointed across the chamber. They are not what they claim to be. Every predator near their colonies has vanished. Entire fleets go missing when they approach. And their own histories, he slammed his talon against the table, prove what they are. Hunters. Killers. They smile while the blood dries on their hands. Gasps spread through the hall. The accusation was bold, dangerous. All eyes turned toward the human ambassador. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the ambassador rose slowly. His suit was perfect, his hands steady, his expression soft and polite. When he spoke, his voice was calm, each word measured with care. "We are accused of crimes without evidence," he said. "We are told our history is reason enough to condemn us. But if history is the test, then tell me, what species here is without blood on their past? Who among you has risen to the stars without war, without conquest, without killing? Show me a civilization here that has never known the predator's instinct, and I will bow before them." The hall shifted uneasily. The words cut deep because they were true. Every empire in that chamber had once spilled blood to survive. Every people had once fought to claim their place. And the humans knew it. The ambassador's smile widened just slightly, though not warmly. "We offer peace because we have known war. We seek cooperation because we understand destruction. Do not mistake history for hunger. We are here as diplomats. Nothing more." Some cheered the speech, reassured by the calm tone. Others stayed silent, their instincts gnawing at them, whispering that the words were too smooth, too polished. Diplomacy could not erase the look in the humans' eyes, or the way their soldiers moved like hunters in every hall. Later, in the quiet corners of the station, the debate continued. Some species pleaded that the council should expose humanity before it was too late. But when asked for proof, they faltered. The humans were careful. They left no evidence. Their fleets did not invade openly. Their colonies did not slaughter. They simply grew stronger, step by step, while their smiles hid the teeth. That night, as the stars burned cold beyond the great windows, one of the council guards broke his silence. He had served long enough to know the signs of hunters. He spoke to his commander in a low voice. "They look like diplomats," he said, "but they move like predators. I feel it every time they walk past. We are not watching them. They are watching us." The commander told him to stay quiet. Speaking such words without proof would end his career. Yet when he looked out across the docking bays and saw human soldiers standing silently near their ships, he too felt the weight of old instincts pressing down on him. The next day, another rival species vanished from its border systems. A proud empire, known for its cruelty, gone in a single night. The council demanded answers. The humans spoke gently, offering condolences, promising aid. They bowed their heads in sympathy, but their eyes remained calm, untouched by grief. And so the council split. Some clung to the illusion of peace, desperate to believe the smiles were real. Others whispered that the mask was cracking. But no one dared speak it too loudly. For whenever they looked toward the humans, standing quietly at the edge of the chamber, their instincts screamed a single word that no one wanted to admit aloud. Predators. And in the silence of space, the fleets of humanity adjusted their positions once more, moving like shadows across the stars, closer and closer, never striking, never explaining, always waiting. War erupted not with warning, but with fire. Two great empires, old rivals with centuries of hatred between them, clashed once again. Their fleets collided at the edge of disputed space, weapons burning bright, worlds caught between them. The council tried to intervene, but their pleas were ignored. Armies moved, ships vanished, and the stars themselves seemed to shake under the violence. At first, humanity remained silent. Their ambassadors stood in the council chambers, speaking soft words of peace while the galaxy tore itself apart. They offered to mediate. They offered to host talks. They offered to send aid to civilians caught in the crossfire. And many believed them, grateful for their calm voice in a storm of chaos. But others began to notice. Wherever humans went to help, the balance of war shifted. Fleets disappeared, not only from battle but from existence. Stations that once belonged to one side suddenly flew the flags of humanity. Entire supply lines were redirected, always to the humans' advantage. The two warring empires bled themselves dry, but humanity never seemed to lose a ship. In secret, some generals whispered the truth. Humanity was not caught between the empires. Humanity was guiding the war. They had placed themselves at the center, offering one hand in peace while the other moved pieces on the board. Both empires thought they were using the humans as mediators. In reality, the humans were using them. A recording surfaced from a battlefield, though no one could trace its source. It showed a human commander standing aboard a silent ship, watching as fleets burned in the distance. His officers moved around him with precision, never raising their voices. At last, the commander spoke, his voice calm, almost casual. "Do not interfere until they weaken each other. Then we will step in. Diplomacy will finish what war has begun." The words spread like wildfire, though many denied their truth. But those who had fought in wars before knew what they had heard. Humanity was not merely surviving. Humanity was feeding. The war dragged on, and soon one empire collapsed, its fleets shattered, its worlds burning. The other, victorious but broken, reached out for peace. And who stood ready to receive them? The humans, their smiles calm, their words soft, their fleets untouched. They brokered treaties, they signed agreements, and in the chaos, they gained control of star systems that had once belonged to others. In the council, outrage simmered, but it could not ignite. Humanity had not invaded. Humanity had not declared war. Humanity had simply helped. Every accusation crumbled under the weight of their careful words. Yet the unease grew sharper with every victory hidden beneath diplomacy. One alien general, scarred and weary, spoke to his council in private. "We have all fought predators. But predators take what they need and move on. These humans are different. They don't only fight wars. They create them. They feed on them. And when it ends, they are stronger, while their prey lies broken." Across the stars, fleets continued to burn. And always, when the smoke cleared, the humans were there, smiling, offering peace with one hand while the other quietly tightened its grip. In the great council chamber, alien leaders watched humanity more closely than ever before. They saw the polite bows, the warm words, the calm expressions. But now, when the ambassador smiled, the room no longer saw peace. They saw fire reflected in his eyes. And far away, in the void where no witnesses stood, human fleets shifted again. Not to defend, not to retreat, but to surround. Quietly, patiently, they moved like wolves around a wounded herd, waiting for the moment to strike. The council chamber had grown tense with every new session. Delegates no longer trusted the smiles of the human ambassadors. Even those who once defended them now sat in silence, their feathers tight, their scales dull, their antennae twitching nervously. The humans had become too perfect in their role, too calm, too patient, too successful. Victories followed them like shadows, yet never left a trace of open aggression. That night, a private meeting was called. Only a handful of leaders dared to gather, their ships hidden in the dark between stars. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices breaking with unease. "We cannot allow this to continue," one whispered. "They are reshaping the galaxy one war at a time." Another added, "If we accuse them openly, they will deny it. They always deny it. And without proof, the others will protect them." As the debate continued, a figure stepped from the shadows of the chamber. A human. No ambassador, no diplomat, only a soldier in a dark uniform, his presence colder than the void outside. The leaders froze, their blood running cold. None of them had invited him. None of them had felt him arrive. He looked at them with calm eyes, eyes that did not blink. "You are right," he said softly. "We are reshaping the galaxy." His voice was quiet, almost kind, but every word pressed down like the weight of a predator's stare. The room fell silent. No one dared breathe. "You mistake us," the soldier continued. "We are not here to conquer. Conquest is loud, wasteful. It leaves enemies behind. We are here to guide, to shape, to ensure that when war ends, it ends in our favor. Always in our favor." One delegate managed to stammer, "Then, all of this, the wars, the disappearances." The soldier tilted his head slightly, as though amused. "Wars are inevitable. We simply encourage their direction. As for disappearances," His smile grew faint, thin as a blade. Predators remove threats quietly. You understand. Fear rippled through the room. For the first time, the illusion cracked fully. There was no mask here, no diplomat's smile. Only the truth: humanity had never stopped being predators. They had only learned patience. Before the leaders could speak again, the soldier turned and walked into the shadows. No door opened. No ship was seen leaving. He was simply gone. The silence that followed was suffocating. The delegates looked at one another, their hearts pounding. Each of them knew what the others had felt in that moment. They had not been speaking to a negotiator or a warrior. They had been standing in the presence of something older, sharper, more dangerous than any empire had faced before. Back in the Great Council, the humans arrived as usual. They smiled, bowed, and offered aid to the broken empires. They spoke of peace, of rebuilding, of unity. But for those who had seen the soldier in the shadows, every word sounded hollow. They knew now what the galaxy had refused to admit. The humans were not pretending to be predators wearing masks of diplomats. They were predators who had learned the art of wearing masks better than anyone else. And as the session ended, the alien leaders sat in silence, their instincts screaming. Humanity's smile was still calm, still kind. But behind it, they finally saw the teeth. The council chamber was filled to the edges, every seat occupied, every banner raised. It was meant to be a session of celebration, the end of war between two of the great empires. Delegates clapped their claws, wings, and hands, praising the fragile peace that had been signed. And at the center of it all, as always, sat the humans. Their ambassador rose with a calm smile, his voice gentle, his words soft as silk. "We stand here together," he said, "not as enemies, not as rivals, but as children of the stars. Today, the galaxy proves that unity is possible, that peace can prevail, that cooperation is stronger than war." Applause spread across the hall. Many clung to the words, desperate to believe them. But others sat in silence. They had seen too much. Too many wars had ended this way, with humans standing at the center, stronger than before, untouched by loss. As the ambassador spoke, the great screens behind him flickered. At first it seemed a technical error, but then images appeared, fleets in motion, stations falling silent, borders shifting. Every major system in the galaxy was shown. And in every image, humans were there. Quietly, efficiently, already in control. Gasps filled the chamber. Delegates rose in outrage, demanding answers, but the ambassador only raised a hand. His smile never faltered. His eyes never blinked. "There is no need for fear," he said softly. "You see predators. But predators know balance. We do not destroy what we need to survive. We do not waste what can be useful. And you," he paused, letting his gaze move across every species in the hall, "are useful." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted threats, others cried warnings. A few broke down in silence, realizing the truth too late. The humans did not react. They simply watched, calm and patient, as though the outburst had been expected. Then the ambassador leaned forward slightly, and his voice cut through the storm like a blade. "You believed our smiles were masks. They were not. They were patience. We wore them until the stars were ready. And now," his expression shifted, just for a heartbeat. The smile thinned, sharpened. In his eyes, the mask was gone. "Now you see us." The hall went still. Not a word was spoken. For the first time in the galaxy's history, every leader, every delegate, every soldier present understood the same truth. The humans had not risen by chance, nor by kindness. They had risen because they were predators who had learned to wait, to smile, and to strike when the moment was right. Outside the chamber, fleets of human warships drifted silently in the void. Not firing. Not invading. Simply waiting, engines cold, weapons armed, surrounding the systems like wolves around a herd. The ambassador bowed once more, as though nothing had changed. "Let us continue our work together. For peace. For unity. For the galaxy." No one clapped this time. No one cheered. They only watched in silence, their instincts screaming, their hearts heavy with dread. The humans smiled once again, and in that smile the galaxy finally understood the truth. The diplomats had never been diplomats at all. They had only been predators, patient enough to let the prey realize it on their own. And by the time the stars understood, it was already too late.